I think we should all be very grateful for the fact that she has decided to move back to Oxford after many years in corporate life and many experiences of the kind that I'm sure have made it possible for her to give the kind of advice to us that we all need. And when I say that, I think you all know, because like me, I'm sure you have accumulated the treasures of a lifetime without even being conscious of having done so. The cuckoo clock that belonged to my father, the tax receipts and tax returns that still are packaged neatly in our basement, the sleds that no one is ever going to slide on again, and the the Tonka trucks that probably will not see much use from here on in, and so on and so on and so forth. The fencing foils I used for a couple of months for workout while I was in college, things like that. Marion has become a specialist in helping people like me, possibly people like you, cope with the accumulations of life and the restart of a whole new and I hope more orderly way of being. I'm not sure if I'm right about any of that, Marion, but with that, I'd like to kind of hand it over to you to lead us in that on that topic.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your introduction, and I'm going to try to share my screen here. Let me know. I'm going to try to put it to full screen in slideshow mode. Can everybody see Elsa here?
Yeah,
okay.
Looks good.
Okay, great. Great. Well, so Jonathan, of course, I had to think of you as you were talking about your daughter's birthday party with Elsa being front and center, because that's who's welcoming us today. I am delighted to be with you, and I have about 20 minutes prepared to show you how to declutter your home without losing your cool. And I'd like to just expand on that wonderful introduction by letting you know that I am a senior move manager. I'm a member of the National Association of Specialty and Senior Move Managers, and I am passionate about helping seniors live independently and in control as long as they possibly can. Today, though, I'm going to show all of you, regardless of where you are in your life, how to declutter your home without losing your cool. And as you heard, I am now, again, a neighbor in Oxford, Ohio. This is move number 1. My business is Lynn's daughter, and that's a picture of me during my very first move with Lynn. We had just moved to the Air Force Academy in 1972. I'm 18 months old in this picture, and I'm holding a stuffed bunny that for some reason I called Boonie, and I still have Boonie. And the reason that I wanted to start with this is because a lot of times when I talk about decluttering, the first thing that comes to mind is, are you going to make me get rid of all of the things that I love? And the answer is no. Not only does that not make sense, but the way that I'm defining clutter is anything that gets in the way of the life that you want to have. Now, in case you're wondering how I became so adept at moving effectively and efficiently, this is my life in zip codes. 31 moves in 50 years. Move number 32 for me is coming up in April. I'll be just about a mile away from mom and dad here in Oxford. And I'm delighted to be able to have my own space here in Oxford and put down roots. As you heard, my career in the corporate world took me coast to coast with a number of different industries, and I'm able to tap into my expertise as a human resources professional, a process consultant, a project manager, and a communications guru as I run my own business. So with that as an introduction, this is what I'm going to be spending 20 minutes with. Why people declutter, where is the best place to start, best practice how-tos, and then I'll make sure to leave time to wrap it up and have space for your questions. Now, in terms of why people declutter, there are a number of reasons. I'm going to touch on just 4 today. If you can see here, reason number 1, the biggest slice of the pie is to eliminate stress that's caused by clutter in the home. What I want you to take away here is that clutter robs you of time and money. Studies will show that we spend 2.5 days on average looking for the things that we've misplaced. And then we spend more money replacing something that we know we have, but we can't find because it's around here somewhere. Now, the next biggest slice of the pie here is that people simply need more space. We, especially Americans, we love our stuff. So oftentimes we declutter because we need more space for more things. Third on the list, in the orange slice of pie, is getting ready to downsize or move. That makes up almost 16% of the respondents in this survey. And the fourth reason I'm going to touch on here is listed as, quote, a life change. Now, this 8% slice of the pie could reflect anything from a marriage, a divorce, a move into assisted living, or simply a conscious effort to make the home safer. An unexpected life change can happen at any age. And that's why I like to encourage people to begin their decluttering when they are physically able. Right now, downsizing to a smaller home after retirement is gaining an appeal to a lot of baby boomers and even some members of Generation X. Downsizing is a way for people to continue living independently and in control by simplifying. And the reason for this is that our homes are like Peter Pan. Think about it. Your home probably has not aged along with you, and now it may not be meeting your needs. Anyone who's been the recipient of their parents' or their grandparents' belongings knows what an undertaking it can be to assess, sort, haul, and make decisions about every trinket, framed photo, and furnishing, or maybe a box of taxes. What I hear a lot from my clients is, anything that I can do to make my child's life easier, I want to do. And most of all, boy, I had to take this on for my parents, and I never want to saddle my loved ones with this. The truth is, and here's the key point, the more proactive you can be, the more in control you're going to feel about your own life. This is my favorite reason for decluttering because it's a key component of an overall plan to reduce the risks of falling at home. Falls are the leading cause of death from injury among people 65 and older, and it's a primary reason why I'm passionate about helping people declutter their homes. 2/3 of the people aged 65 and older who fall once will do so again within 6 months. And if you're like me, you might have had a grandparent say, if you want to remember to bring things upstairs to the bedrooms, put them on the stairs. So that's where you get stacks of papers, books, clothes that need to be put away, possibly shoes. And then if and when you forget to pick them up off the stairs, then they become trip hazards. Tripping over clutter contributes to that risk of falling, and one fall could change it all. So awareness is important, but clearing the clutter in your hallways and staircases is an easy and also helpful thing to do. And I know that the minute that I say that, somebody in the audience here is saying, where do I even start? I get it. One of the toughest aspects of downsizing is decluttering. So the first thing is that you want to do is important, because the decluttering process is necessary, but not necessarily easy or fun. So before you do anything, anchor yourself to your ultimate goal. Have a vision for what you want. What is your prize? What will you have when you're successful? It might be thinking back to the pie chart that showed the reasons why people downsize. What you might have is a sense of liberty. You'll have more space. You'll have room to move in. You won't feel weighed down by things that don't bring you joy. You might have more money. Especially if you are gearing up for a move, you will save money by not having to pack as many belongings, and then of course unpack at the other end. You'll have peace of mind. Maybe you'll be able to move to a smaller home that is easier to maintain, easier to afford. Safety, again, the prize of safety is always a good one, especially if you're planning to age in place. Next, as you're getting started, I want you to make a list. Begin by taking an inventory of every stuff-filled space in your home. I want you to include closets, the basement, the attic that nobody goes into anymore, the garage. You can check that off as you go. And what you have in a storage facility, that counts too. Just because things are in boxes, that doesn't mean that they get a pass. Just take an inventory of what you have. It is not uncommon to get overwhelmed when you first begin to realize just how many belongings you've accumulated over the years. And so if that's where you find yourself today, I want you to know that you are not alone. If you have lived in your home for more than 20 years, or if Reagan was in office the last time that you moved, you're going to feel overwhelmed by the work ahead of you. And again, 100% understandable. So if you want to keep your cool while you let it go, then you're going to want to focus on one room or one space at a time, not the whole house. I'm going to ask you to start with what's easy. So not your toughest or your most packed room. That's a recipe for getting quickly overwhelmed and giving up. Instead, I'm going to suggest that you kick off the process with a smaller room that doesn't have a ton of storage, maybe a guest room or a hall closet. You can see this closet here in a guest room. This is not one of my clients, but it's a good picture for illustration purposes. Something like this, when it's not your stuff, seems like an easy thing to tackle. When it's your things, that can be tough. If this is overwhelming, start with one side of the closet. If that's still overwhelming, then start with one drawer. Honestly, my first tip to leave you with here is start small if you need to. My next one is an all-time favorite. Most of the folks here can do anything for 15 minutes. Set a kitchen timer or use the timer on your phone if that's easier. Start with 15 minutes and work in short spurts. Do what you can until the dinger dings. And when the dinger dings, evaluate how you're feeling. If you're on a roll, keep going. If you need a break, take a break. If you need to stop and start again tomorrow, then do that. Everybody is in a different place when they undertake a decluttering project. And you'd be surprised at how much you can actually get done in 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, you could pull out the duplicate kitchen utensils and set them aside for donation. In 15 minutes, you can go through your closet and just pull out the shoes that you don't wear anymore and that you could give away. In 15 minutes, you could go through your DVD collection and discard them. Again, starting with 5 minutes at a time and starting with what's easy helps you build momentum. You're going to be asking me in a minute, okay, how do I tackle the sentimental stuff? Well, this is actually how you tackle the sentimental stuff. You're going to start with what's easy. And when you start with what's easy, you need to be realistic with what you need for your current lifestyle. And what I mean by that is that if you had children, but they are all moved out by now, do you really need to keep their childhood bed sheets? Probably not. The other thing is that you could donate or sell anything that you haven't used in the last year, especially clothes. This is the expert recommended time period for everything that you don't need. If you haven't longed for it in 12 months, chances are you won't in the next 12 months. And before you object and say, but Marion, what about the pandemic? Everything's been different. It really has. So use your own judgment. But for me, if I haven't wanted it or needed it in 12 months, my life may have changed to the point where it's different and I'm not going to need it. And that's me. Number 3, pitch the broken. Don't keep anything that is broken or damaged, honestly. And generally speaking, by the way, do not donate anything that is broken or damaged either. My litmus test is if it's something that I would not give to a friend because it's dirty, broken, damaged in some way, if I wouldn't give it to a friend, I'm not going to give it to Goodwill. Here's a great list of things that you can start with when you want to start with the easy things. Books that you know you're never going to read again. Those worn out linens and towels that you never use. The collection of florist vases that you've got under the sink. How many people have extra coffee mugs? If you're going to have 59 people over for coffee at once, more power to you, but I doubt that you will. We've talked about the clothes that either don't fit or that you know you're not going to wear again. Duplicate kitchen gadgets or utensils. I worked with a client who had no fewer than 7, I'm not making this up, 7 wine openers. The home decor that you no longer love, that's stuck in a basement somewhere. And this last one on the list, gifts that you've never liked or used. I am hereby absolving you of any guilt that you might be feeling to hang on to gifts that you've been given that you've never liked and you've never used. Now we're getting going. This is how you can actually go through your items in your 15 minutes using the 4-box method. The best thing that you can do with your clutter is to get rid of it. The 4-box decluttering method is the easiest ways that I can find to declutter. This restricts your options for what you're doing with a particular item by only giving yourself these 4 options. Now, typically the options are keep, donate, trash, recycle, and sell. You'll see in this particular picture, there's not a box for keep. That's because I'm helping a client who is going to continue living in this home. There's no point in putting things into a box if they're going to continue living in the home. So the boxes that I've chosen for this particular client are sell, donate, recycle, and trash. Now the 4-box method is precisely what it says. You use the 4 containers to declutter any room or area. If you don't have a box or a container, just use piles in a room. It doesn't have to be fancy. You're forcing a decision item by item. You're also, I'm going to encourage you to be ruthless and to be honest with yourself as you envision the next chapter in your life. Remember how you anchored yourself at the beginning? As you're picking something up and you're making a decision about it, you're going to think about how this either helps or hinders that vision. If it is not helping, then it is sell, donate, recycle, or trash. And again, challenge yourself. Do you really need 7 different wine openers? Probably not. Here's another favorite tip, easy to remember. Ohio, only handle it once. And this is especially important if you're decluttering to downsize. Now remember, we're starting with the easy stuff, not the real sentimental stuff. If you pick something up that's part of the easy stuff and you're undecided about whether to keep, pitch, donate, or sell something, when you pick it up, ask yourself, do I really want to pack this in a box and then have to unpack it at the other end? Whatever your initial hit is, whatever that instinctual feeling in your body tells you, that's your answer. And if the answer is yes, I really want to see this at the other end of my decluttering to downsize process, then great. Then that's going to go in the keeper pile. Again, if you are decluttering your home for whatever reason, the main takeaway is this: you don't want to organize your clutter. You really want to clear it out. Now we're going to put it all together. Start small if you need to. Set a timer for 15 minutes. Focus on the easy stuff. Save the sentimental stuff for later. Try using the 4-box method to force a decision and only handle it once. In the top right-hand corner, you see a box. It's empty right now. That is the biggest secret of all, and I'm going to tell it to you now. The secret is it doesn't have to be perfect, so give yourself grace. So many folks get down on themselves for having a lot of clutter or having a lot of stuff to work through. I hear it all the time when I go into their homes. And the first thing I tell them is that I don't see the point of feeling bad about it. I certainly don't judge them. And I remind them that the piles we're looking at didn't populate overnight. So they're not going to disappear overnight unless you're chucking everything into a dumpster. And that's not what this process is about. This process is about helping you to start easy, start small, work in small spurts so that you can build up the muscle, build that momentum, and you're ready to tackle the sentimental stuff. Decluttering is hard work because of the decisions that you're making. That can be emotionally and physically taxing. And I think that's why a lot of people put off doing this and decide to let their kids, quote, deal with it when they're gone. I believe that we can do hard things with time and with grace. All right. Before I open it up for questions, let me leave you with my favorite easy way to declutter your home little by little. This hot tip: keep a box for donations by your door. This is actually a picture of my mother's house. You can see the Shackley box. She's got a box always on this little bench by the back door, and that door goes into the garage. When she's going about her day anywhere in this big house that that Mom and Dad moved into in 1987, when she comes across something that no longer brings her joy, if she doesn't use it, love it, or need it, it's going in that box. And when the box is full, it goes in the car to Goodwill. So when you're sorting through your clothes, be honest. Ask yourself, would I buy this again today? Would I pack it for a trip? If the answer is no, put it in that box. If it's really nice, you can also consign it. But again, keeping a donation box by the door helps you get into that mindset of decluttering and only keeping the things that you need, use, and love. So that consider that to be your new mantra. Use it, love it, lose it. Be honest with yourself. If the answer is no, you don't use it, no, you don't love it, then let it go, release it. And with that, I'd like to open it up for your questions. I don't know if there are questions in chat, but I can look in the chat. No, that's something different. Oh, what's wrong with 7 wine openers? Okay, well, sure. Again, I'm not making any judgments, Betsy, but in this particular case, 7 weren't needed. They were a little bit of excess. So let me go ahead and stop the share and open it up for questions if you have any.
Marion, how long have you been doing this?
I started it's a great question. I started Lynn's Daughter officially in June. And my first client hired me in August. And I've been getting busier and busier since then. But I've been decluttering and downsizing myself again for 32 moves. A lot of those zip codes that you saw at the beginning, of course, because I grew up in an Air Force family, a lot of those were from moves with the Air Force. But even as an adult, I have found, just like now, I moved to my parents' home on Fox Run Circle in June, and in April, I'll be moving into a rental home of my own. So that's moves 31 and 32. So yeah, thanks for asking.
Marion, it's Warren.
Hey, Warren.
If, I don't know how, there's a problem that's very difficult to deal with. Things are too good to throw away, but you really don't know how to sell them. So what do you do?
I love that question. Honestly, thank you so much for asking that question, because that's the question that's on everybody's mind, Warren. Okay, here we go. First of all, the things that we have are only worth something in the secondary market if someone is willing to pay for them. And the example I want to give you is that I might find this little angel on my desk to be truly valuable to me and special to me, and it was expensive when I bought it. But if nobody is willing to give me money for it, it's not really worth anything. So the thing to do is to there is a website that I can give you where you can look on the web to see what it might be worth on the secondary market. I will follow up. I'm going to give you guys one of my favorite tips. I'll send it to you, Warren, and you can share it with the rest of the Rotarians. But there's a website that you can look it up on your own. I would say in general, prepare yourself that the big, heavy, dark furniture that you've been lovingly curating and taking care of for 40 or 50 years isn't going to be worth much on the secondary market. Here's why. We have 2 generations that are downsizing right now and shedding their antique furniture. The market is flooded. We have the generation, the silent generation, the greatest generation that are moving into retirement communities, or they are passing on and their children are moving through their estate and selling all of that stuff. We also have baby boomers, the 60-somethings, the early 70-somethings, who are also downsizing. They are also putting furniture, the big antique heavy furniture, on the secondary market. It is flooded. So couple that with the fact that we've got generations now, the millennials, who are established. They're 30, almost 40 years old. They move way more frequently than the generations before them. It's tough for them to have that big, heavy furniture. So if the furniture that's been in your family is valuable to you, what you can do with it is try to pass it down to a family member. If that's not possible and you want to consign it, you can look up its value on the website. You can call an auctioneer to come through your home and take a look at what's available and what might be valuable there. And if you do end up needing to sell it, but it's sentimental to you, then take pictures of it and write down the story of it, especially if it's something like the rocking chair that has been used for 3 generations in your family to rock babies. So honor that sentiment. So, okay, and Heidi, you've got a question.
So what's your recommendation for the audiophile or the bibliophile who is resistant to get rid of their book or CD, radio, record player collection?
So I'm going to have to ask for a clarifying question, Heidi, if you're talking about yourself or if you're talking about someone else.
Oh, I'm talking about my husband.
Okay. Okay. Well,
we carted, probably 10 boxes of books. He has over 3,500 CDs. He has, you know, the library, and eventually that's all going to have to get downsized. And so
Yes.
how do you sort that?
Okay. So I'm going to speak so I love that question, and thank you for asking it, because I frequently get asked, what do I do about my mom, my dad, my husband, my grandma, right? What do I do about someone else? And this is where, if I had gotten my master's degree in family therapy, I might be better equipped. I can't, but what I do know from personal experience is that it is nearly impossible to change someone else. However, if it is a change management issue, which I do know something about from my life in human resources, if it's a change management issue, if there is no logical reason why someone wants to keep something, then working with them to talk about why it's important to you that you begin putting a plan together down the road. And it's little by little to understand where each of you are coming from. I find that in personal relationships like that, where there's a tug of war, and what you really need is to be in a three-legged race together, what's most important is to have a conversation about 5 years from now, here's the life that I picture for us. What's the life that you picture for us? So when you can come up with a shared vision for what that retirement is going to look like, at some point you'll be able to bring up, do you think that maybe out of the 427 records that you have, do you think maybe you could pare it down to 100? And see if there are some, again, starting easy, see if there are some that would be less painful to give up than others.
Jane called and she's going to be
So,
15 minutes late.
okay. Hopefully that helped, Heidi. Yeah, okay. You guys have great questions. Hit me with another hard one.
Marion,
Yeah.
I'm especially concerned about books, getting rid of books. I don't know how many boxes of books we've already gotten rid of, but I think if there's any empty space on the shelves that at night they just reproduce and make more books. So I never see any space left. We've given a lot of books to the public library. At one point when I left my office at Miami, I gave more than 20 boxes of books to the correctional institution in Lebanon. I looked into sending books to Africa, and that's nice, except it costs you about $50 a box to send books to Africa. Have you got any other ideas? I mean, everybody's trying to get rid of books. Everybody I know is trying to get rid of, well, around my age is trying to get rid of books. Have you got any other ideas on that score?
Yes, and you've actually listed all of the really good ones.
Oh, cool.
So I will also take books to the Habitat Restore. The closest one to us is Eaton, and they've got a really nice facility. I would say, so Goodwill does take books. I try not to bring an entire truckload at once, just because it's tough for them to handle. So little by little. And this is, you know, I'm talking about when I'm helping to clean out an estate. So one of my clients now I'm helping, she lives in Boston with her husband, and her mother passed away here in Oxford. So I'm actually helping her by helping to clean out the estate, so that she doesn't have to keep traveling. And her parents have walls and walls and walls of books. They've been carefully curated. So they're actually going to be part of the auction. So as she's already identified some of the items that will go to auction, the carefully curated books are going to auction. So that's another option. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that if you are on Facebook, you can follow Lynn's daughter, Senior Move Management. every day I post different tips. There's Monday Motivation, Hot Tip Tuesday, One Thing Wednesday. There's always a Friday Funny. And I know that I recently posted, what do I do with all of my books? And there was a list of things that you could do. So if you want to follow along for different tips for exactly these types of things.
What is that online address, Marion?
So on Facebook, so I'll give you two. On Facebook, it's Lynn's daughter, LYN' space daughter dash senior move management. And my website is lynsdaughter.com. But on a daily basis, I'm updating Lynn's daughter on Facebook. And you can follow that for some fun tips and tricks and things like this.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Books, by the way, are another big issue. So Robert, your question was a really good one. And I think that it's partially due to the number of academics in Oxford. I mean, I've never seen so many people with so many books as I have when I moved to Oxford. So, yeah.
They become intellectual souvenirs.
Well, yeah, and you know what, you guys, I get it, right? Because before I did this, remember that my life had several different chapters and bookshelves, and one of them was working as an organization development consultant, and I was teaching in a graduate program, and I've got an entire bookcase floor to ceiling of organization development books, some of which were signed by the authors, and they're like a diary. They are a part of my life. Textbooks have no resale value in the secondary market, so I know from experience that those have to go into the recycle bin. And again, remember, I'm asking myself, do I really want to pack this and then have to unpack it again on the other end? After 5 moves of not using them, the answer was no, right? So textbooks go into recycling bin. If they're first edition, they're probably worth something. You could auction them, but the other ones take paperbacks to half price books. And then some of the other ones just smuggle them into different library donations, like, you know, a little bit at a time.
One more comment. Last year, my wife and I spent a long time at her parents' house in Princeton, New Jersey, and that family had more than 3,000 books, and they had done nothing to plan. And I'd say on a scale of hoarders 1 to 10, they were about 7.5 or 8. I mean, it was really hideous. And one thing that they didn't do anything. One thing that we did, especially my wife, was to call ultimately 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and also a shredding service that showed up a couple times and just shredded a lot of material. And by the way, one of my big problems is my grown children have left their crap in our basement. And that's good. Either they get it or it's going to the curb at some point. I don't care. I'm setting it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, this is my amen face. Amen. Yes. Here, again, I am giving you all permission to set a deadline with your adult children. Don't be rude about it necessarily, but remind them that it's not an empty nest while they've still got their crap in your basement. And set a deadline by when they need to come by and get their things. And then after that, then it gets donated. So, and this is one place where you can blame Marion. Totally, I will take the hit for you.
Does that include the pets they left behind?
The pets. All right. Well,
Just be glad they're not children.
Yeah, right.
I don't think there are any children in my basement, but I have to check that too. I don't know.
All right. Well, I have just thoroughly enjoyed being with all of you, and I'm going to follow up by sending you my favorite list, 50 ways to leave your clutter. And that will give you a long list of the things that you might find easy to get started with. Again, as you're thinking ahead, it's not too soon. If you are thinking about downsizing in the next 2 to 5 years, doing a little bit at a time can take a lot of the pressure off. Follow Lynn's daughter for tips and tricks. And as always, I hope that you'll reach out if there's anything I can help you with. But thank you so much for the invitation. I've thoroughly enjoyed being with you all. So thank you.
Well, Marion, on behalf of the club, I want to say thank you very much for the presentation. There were a lot of useful tips in it. And I think many of us are involved in this process at this point. And so we all need to chip away at least at this stuff. And we will put a book in your name into Lane Library. Don't know what it will be, but it'll be something nice. And we want to thank you again for your presentation. Very helpful. Great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much.